for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
And I'm Katy Steele Baroni for Jack Prince.
Yes, Katy, we've got a lot to talk about. Man, I guess Dana Nessel, the state attorney general for Michigan, had it right when she said last week that this was the tip of the iceberg when it came to these militias. We're calling them violent conservatives because that's what they are. The tip of the iceberg when it came to this whole plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So we'll talk about that. Oh, and we've got Trump news, and this is just...
Nazis everywhere.
Yes, they are. They're all over the place. Question is, how do we get rid of them? Well, I don't know if we'll have the solutions today, but maybe you guys can think of something and let us know. And you can do that by going to our social media. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can find us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can find us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can find us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com. Do a search for Southpaws there. You can find us at Apple Podcasts by doing a search for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. Links to our podcasts are sent to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and our Tumblr accounts. You can also find us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI-FM in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and at Global Community Radio Channel 1. We're on Saturday nights at 11 p.m. on Global Community Radio Channel 1. Check us out there if you would. Oh, boy. So, Thursday, the news comes out that a 16th person has been arrested and is being charged in the plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Not shocking, I have to say. There was 16 arrested so far from several different states, but I guarantee there are thousands more where they came from.
There's going to be more, probably. This is John Flesher and Anna Liz Nichols writing for the Associated Press out of Lansing. Michigan's Attorney General charged an 8th person Thursday in what authorities have described as a foiled scheme to storm the state capitol building and kidnap officials, including Governor Gretchen Whitmer. 51-year-old Brian Higgins of Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin, was charged with material support of an act of terrorism. That is according to Attorney General Dana Nessel. If convicted, he could get up to 20 years in prison. 7 men purportedly linked to a paramilitary group called the Wolverine Watchmen were charged in state court last week with providing material support for terrorist acts and possession of a firearm while committing a felony. Federal charges were filed against 6 others in the alleged conspiracy to kidnap Whitmer. Nessel said, quote, "While the political rhetoric in our nation may at times be divisive, I am encouraged by the united front our law enforcement community has displayed in response to this indescribable act of terror. These were very credible and very serious threats to our elected officials and the public in general, and the swift actions taken by state and federal authorities this past week are nothing short of heroic." End of quote. I don't know about heroic, because some of these guys might be former... Well, we know they're former military, at least 2 of them.
Yeah, well...
One was current military up until the day he got arrested.
Yeah, until the day he was charged. And the military itself published an article saying that he was discharged on Thursday, but his discharge had absolutely nothing to do with the kidnapping plot. He was charged on Thursday. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
It had nothing to do with the kidnapping plot. Yeah, there we go. A Michigan State Police affidavit said Higgins assisted 4 members of an extremist paramilitary organization called the Wolverine Watchmen who took part in surveillance of Whitmer's vacation home in northern Michigan. Higgins provided night vision goggles for the mission, the document said. What? Those are not cheap.
No.
Jeez. The affidavit also said, quote, additionally, he used a mounted digital dash camera located in his vehicle to record the surveillance of the governor's home in order to aid in kidnapping plans, end of quote. The state suspects are accused of planning and training to attack the Capitol in Lansing and target law enforcement officers, quote, to instigate a civil war leading to societal collapse, end of quote. We'll get to that point in our next story here, because there's a tie-in to that.
Seems to be a larger ploy here.
Higgins was arrested Thursday in Wisconsin. He will be extradited to Michigan. A spokesman for Nestle said it was uncertain whether Higgins had an attorney. He was being held in the Columbia County Jail in Wisconsin. An FBI affidavit said the men who plotted to kidnap Whitmer had discussed taking her to Wisconsin for trial. While these terror charges are tied to the governor's threats, another aspect of the evidence includes threats against law enforcement. The indictment related to the federal case said, quote, the militia group had already been brought to the attention of the FBI by a local police department in March 2020 when members of the militia group were attempting to obtain the addresses of local law enforcement officers. At the time, the FBI interviewed a member of the militia group who was concerned about the group's plans to target and kill police officers, and that person agreed to become a CHS. End of quote. CHS stands for Confidential Human Source, people who became crucial in helping investigators gather evidence and ultimately file these charges. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Kent County Sheriff Michelle LaJoy Young told News 8, quote, the fact that somebody stepped forward and said, this is being planned, that I'm uncomfortable with the violence that they're talking about. They reported it. It's that kind of somebody being willing to step forward that really does keep individuals safe when these kinds of plots are happening. End of quote. She was asked to share perspective on how investigators approach a case when evidence includes threats of violence against law enforcement. The sheriff said anyone who wants to overthrow a governmental body is an anarchist ahead of any other political affiliation the public often rushes to scrutinize. LaJoy Young continued, quote, it's absolutely very concerning. When you've agreed to serve the community, put yourself in harm's way, there's a risk that comes with that. But I really feel like cases like this put an exclamation point on that. We really all have to work together in this community to keep each other safe. End of quote. She noted the informant was crucial in preventing potential violence, which is a risk her department knows is out there. She added, quote, we have to be very cognizant that there are individuals that want to hurt us, but you can't approach every call that way, because if you approach every call where you think your safety is jeopardized, it would impact the way that you communicate, the way that you listen, the way that you work through whatever circumstance you're faced with. End of quote. Can I use the BS meter right now for that statement? Yeah. Oh, if we approach every call that way, we think your safety's jeopardized. You really?
So we're just going to approach black people that way.
Well,
that's the part she didn't say.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is that they do approach every call if you're African American. Oh, unbelievable.
I don't know, man. The lines are getting really blurry these days. It's really hard to listen to one quote from a sheriff in a county and then listen to another quote from a sheriff in a county and have them completely contradict each other.
Oh, you mean Darleaf in Berry County, last week's winner of the Hammer Time Award.
Yeah, he is one of them. I mean, but there's been a couple of sheriffs now who have come out and just said some really questionable things that have me questioning everything. Like, how long do they expect this whole system to uphold itself when they are basically undermining it themselves, you know?
You know why there's individuals that want to hurt you, Sheriff LaJoy Young? It's because you keep shooting innocent black people.
You're inflicting violence on them one way or another, whether you're arresting people for trespassing because they're homeless, or whether you're seizing their wheelchair and their thermal underwear, or, you know, whether you're picking them up from the bus stop for loitering. There's so many things that they're doing that are violent that nobody even calls violence. It's disgusting.
Well, we had a story several years ago on this show where we were talking about cities that were providing bus tickets to homeless people and saying, Go. We don't want you here.
Trust me, we've got plenty of homeless people here who have been sent here from their cities. I have a friend from Holland who was in the shelters in Holland, and his last court date there, the judge said, leave town. Mm-hmm. He said, leave town, we'll leave you alone.
Unbelievable. Well, it is Ottawa County. That's not a surprise. Do you remember which judge it was?
I did not ask him specifically. I should have, but
it
was part of a much bigger conversation, so there was a lot of other things going on.
I'd be curious, because there's a certain Ottawa County judge that has been controversial in the past that the local media has picked up on, so I was wondering if that was him.
Yeah, I think I would have known. I think he would have mentioned that, and it definitely sounded like somebody who, it wasn't something he said from the bench.
Yeah.
It was something that was more of a comment in a side conversation. So
yeah, oh, lovely. Yeah, you just gotta love people. Not really. Oh, which we might as well just get right into this next story. This is from Samantha Springer, writing for NBC News. Now, we had mentioned these militias, I guess you want to call them. We call them violent conservatives here.
Terrorists.
They're terrorists. And by the way, WDIV is now not going to refer to the Watchmen, the Wolverine Watchmen, and the other militia group as militias. No, they're using terrorist.
Good. I hope they use straight terrorists, too. The domestic terrorist thing, differentiates between colors of terrorists, which is crazy.
Yeah. So there's been, as we mentioned, there were 2 of these people that were part of the military. Well, it goes a little deeper than that. Again, this is Samantha Springer, writing for NBC News. This is dated October 15th. Secret recordings of a militant neo-Nazi organization called The Base reveal that the group is recruiting people with military expertise in the U.S. and Canada to train in military operations and prepare to take advantage of what they believe is impending societal collapse. But we heard societal collapse in the last story.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are attempting to make it collapse. So how ironic.
Yes. The audio recordings are from calls between the leader of The Base and more than 100 prospective recruits using the encrypted app Wire. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which monitors hate groups, says that it obtained more than 80 hours of audio recorded starting in November 2018, and that the recordings are featured in a new 3-part podcast titled Baseless that is being released as part of the SPLC's Sound Like Hate podcast series. According to the group, a confidential source provided the recordings to the organization unsolicited, and it confirmed their authenticity with subject matter experts. The SPLC says the audio does not appear to have been edited.
Wow.
And I can tell you it's real easy to find the edit points in audio, whether it's on actual physical tape or if it's digital. Trust me, I've been doing this for a long time. 20% of the prospective recruits who were recorded said they were active duty military or had served in the military in some capacity. That is according to documentary filmmaker Jamila Paxima, a co-host of the podcast. NBC News has listened to a significant part of the audio but could not independently verify their identities or their claims. The leader of the base, Ronaldo Nazaro, who was born in the U.S., runs his operation out of his apartment in St. Petersburg, Russia, which he discusses in the recordings. Wow. So let's see. We've got Russia.
Wow.
Russia. Russians are everywhere.
U.S. military, Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. White supremacy. Yeah.
This just continues to get weirder and weirder, doesn't it?
I just keep hearing Blackwater in the back of my head.
Mm-hmm. Molly Saltskog, senior intelligence analyst at the Sufin Group, an international security consultancy, said, quote, extremely lethal and dangerous operations that believe in an impending race war like the Base or Atomwaffen make a concerted effort to recruit people with military experience. Having these type of people in these types of organizations increases their operational capacities to commit acts of terrorism, end of quote.
So I just got to say, right now, they're back in February. Okay, we had this conversation nationally because there was a man from the military that was accused of a terrorist act. It was something to do with ISIS.
Yeah, probably.
Trying to find the details down on the bottom. But basically it was the same conversation about neo-Nazis in the military. And from this article from military.com, it was published February 12th, 2020 by Richard Sisk. Membership in a white supremacist or neo-Nazi group won't necessarily get a U.S. service member tossed out of the military.
Wow.
Defense officials told a House subcommittee Tuesday. So
wow.
The exact quote was...
So they told this to Congress.
Yeah, they actually said...
Wow.
This is the part that I can't wrap my head around, that there are dozens. They have active investigations. This was in February that revealed they had dozens of veterans and active duty servicemen that were affiliated with white supremacy groups. But they said, Grabowski said, membership in a white nationalist group is not prohibited, but active participation in the group could lead to an administrative discharge, much like the one that just happened to the man who plotted to kidnap Whitmer. At a commander's discretion.
You can be a member, but if you actively participate, we won't let you do that. What's the difference?
Why do we have a military if they are the Nazis? I mean, we're literally convincing everybody in our country that we need this military to keep us safe from people like Hitler. Now you're telling me they are Hitler. So which one is it?
Yeah. Oh, boy. Let me continue the story here. Saltskog said reports that Nazaro is based in Russia, quote, raise flags about the potential for foreign influence on these white supremacist organizations operating on American soil, end of quote. Nazaro formerly was known only by his online aliases, Norman Spear and Roman Wolf, until The Guardian revealed his identity in January. The Guardian and the BBC used photos and property records to show the links between Nazaro and the Spear alias. The Guardian, for example, found tax affidavits signed by Nazaro for a property in Washington state linked to Spear and owned by a company called Base Global. It also matched images of Spear with photos of Nazaro posted on social media by his wife. The wife outed him.
Duh.
The BBC, meanwhile, traced Nazaro and his Russian-born wife to a St. Petersburg apartment that was purchased in her name. NBC News has not reviewed those records.
I mean, that's the level of detective work that you and I can do. So that's pretty bad at covering up your tracks there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, The Guardian, God bless The Guardian.
Oh, yeah. All hail The Guardian. Not going to lie about that. But
yeah, The Guardian, the BBC, fantastic investigative work.
Yeah, but where the heck is everybody else? Where are our government agencies? Where are the people we're paying to do this work? You know, it's crazy.
Oh, they're
the ones perpetrating it that we have to be reporting on. So.
Exactly. In one of the recordings, Nazaro said, quote, "We are survivalism, a self-defense network. Our mission's very, very simple. It is training and networking, preparing for collapse. We want to be in a position where we're ready. We're prepared enough, ready enough that we can take advantage of whatever chaos, power vacuum that might emerge. We want to try and fill that power vacuum and take advantage of the chaos." End of quote. Wow, that's some scary shit right there. Let me just tell you, folks.
And there's hundreds of them, and we haven't caught them all. And I just refuse to believe that there's one big bad guy, and it's either Russia or China. I think that a lot of these big bad guys are right here feeding us this news to make us argue with each other. So,
Well, they said Russia's feeding this to get us to pick sides.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's completely wrong either. I'm just saying there's so many more than one bad player.
Oh yeah, it's Iran, it's Russia, it's China, it's our own government.
It's our people. That's the thing I'm most concerned about, is not the other countries, but our own.
The Justice Department calls the base a violent extremist group. Members of the base in the U.S. have been arrested on charges of possession of weapons, vandalism, and conspiracy to commit murder.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Representative Jackie Speier, Democrat of California, in a House hearing on incidents of white supremacy in the military this year, said this, quote, "They hate Jews and African Americans. Their goal is to use terrorism to start a race war and collapse the United States. Triggering societal collapse may be a sick fantasy, but the reality is that domestic terror has claimed more lives than international terror since 9/11. End of quote. She's right.
For sure.
Many of the conversations document recruitment interviews Nazaro conducted with potential members of the group. The SPLC said it used machine learning to find patterns in what was discussed. There are recurring themes of violence and munitions, but there are also pervasive undertones of avoiding attention from the media and law enforcement. Yeah, they want to go underground.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep a very low profile. Wolverine Watchmen. How many people have heard of them up until last week, Thursday?
Right.
Let's see.
But we knew they were there. I've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
So I keep talking about it because I'm like,
you called it.
I've never seen so many Nazis in my life. They literally flooded Michigan. And
you called it. According to the SPLC, 80% of the recordings have to do with guns and the collapse of America. The word targeted occurs in 45% of the conversations, and the phrase not doing anything illegal shows up in 30% of the conversations. So they took
protest too much.
So they took AI and analyzed this 80 hours worth of audio recordings. Wow. And then came up with the percentages of certain phrases that were used. While Nazaro spoke mostly in positive terms about the camaraderie the group could provide the potential recruits, some of the most hateful language came from the potential recruits themselves, according to the SPLC. The ecologist, the alias for a 20-year-old potential recruit, said this, quote, "A lot of our guys, we have just a pure hatred for modern civilization and industrialization. We wish to liberate ourselves, our fellow whites, and animals from that system." End of quote.
I just want to make it clear I am not one of their fellow whites. I'm not on that list.
When Nazaro asked how, the ecologist answered, quote, "Through economic sabotage such as bombings and arson." End of quote.
That's not economic sabotage. That's violence.
Yes, it is.
Terrorism.
You know, if they really hate modern civilization and industrialization that much, why don't they become Quakers?
I just moved to the UP. Oh my gosh.
Or become Amish or Mennonites, you know? There you go. Oh, yeah, this doesn't have anything to do about hatred for modern civilization. This has to do with wanting to kill people and get away with it.
Read the next quote. That's exactly what it has to do with.
Yeah, the ecologist continued, quote, "Growing up in California, I was surrounded by mostly, like, Filipinos, Asians, Mexicans, blacks, and just watching how they behave and watching, like, I don't know, occasionally, like, white women intermingle with them. It just disgusted me."
Yeah, he knew. He I don't know my ass. He knew. He couldn't handle those black men looking at his white women. And that is so common for the root of these men's racism.
Or his white women being with black men.
Yeah, it's straight up insecurity. Like it's so clear.
Oh my God. Others bragged about the weapons they own. Another potential recruit said, quote, "In terms of firearms, I recently purchased one of my own. I have an AR-15. I practiced with it for a few weekends." End of quote.
And a 2-inch. That's the part he didn't say.
According to the SPLC, Nazaro organized the base, quote, "not as a hierarchical membership organization, but as a network of small underground cells, each with a high degree of autonomy." End of quote. God, that sounds like some of the terrorist groups. This sounds like a terrorist cell.
Yeah, like Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, Al-Qaeda and... unbelievable. Nazaro said on one of the recordings, quote, "What people decide to do outside the base with that training and contacts they make is their business. We don't really need to know about it. I mean, sure, it's kind of better that we don't for everyone's sake and for everyone's success." End of quote.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, because they want to have plausible deniability. I didn't know he was going to go and do all this.
I mean, a huge percentage of these people are active military.
Mm-hmm.
Actual Nazis. So that's all I want to say. Don't talk to me about standing up for the flag.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I saw this on Inside Edition Wednesday evening. There's a story that you can go to their website. Go to InsideEdition.com. You can find the story here. They had a video package inside a members-only doomsday ranch where some plan to wait out election night. And they've got a still of this. you can see big jars of spices, toilet paper, paper towel. They've got bucket. What the buckets for?
It's like a huge pantry in
It's
the picture, but
massive pantry.
I need to see the rest of the place because where are you going to cook? Where are you using those spices?
You know, those buckets, I wonder if those are the buckets that Jim Baker was selling on TV over the last year or so. It could be. But yeah, they got stuff. They got Crisco, Tang, you name it. They've got it in this huge pantry. This is called Fortitude Ranch.
Oh, my.
Wow. Let me just read a portion of the story here. There's been plenty of speculation that election night may be a long one, as ballot counting for the expected record turnout may take some time. But some are also planning to wait out the election inside a so-called doomsday shelter founded by a former Air Force intelligence officer.
Of course.
The guy's name is Drew Miller. He's the founder of the Fortitude Ranch, and he told Inside Edition, quote, "We are activating for the election because of possible post-election violence," end of quote.
I'm just going to say it right now. The military seems to be involved in this planning, whether it's via their neo-Nazi organizations or via their military chapter. That's all I keep seeing. So
accommodations range from luxury rooms to economy class. You can also take refuge underground, where essential items such as rice, beans, and flour are stored for those who believe the doomsday is right around the corner. Also in the stockpile are weapons and ammunition. Wow.
So
they have two of these. They have two of them.
What are the addresses?
Well, they're in secret locations. One is in southern Colorado. The other is in, cue the banjos, West Virginia.
Sure they are. They're just selling us swampland. They're like, what? Listen, we've got a place for you to go. It's real safe.
A yearly membership fee starts at $1,000 per person.
Yeah.
For your $1,000, you get 10 days at any of the ranch locations.
10 days, huh? Yeah, 10 days. All right. And good luck finding it, because it's a secret.
Should there be a national crisis, all members are allowed to stay for the duration. Miller said if everyone decided to come to the ranches at the same time, that there's plenty of room to accommodate them.
Cool. Where they at? Where they at?
I guess we got to pay the $1,000. You got to pay admission.
No. No, you track down the money. You blackmail the guy that runs the Fortitude.
Well, there's got to be property tax records somewhere, right? I'm
sure that's how he got the property, was the method I just stated.
Yeah. Wow. So they have their own doomsday ranch that they can go to and sit out the impending doom
that they've organized and set into motion.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. It's insane. It's nuts.
Even on the local level. Look at this. The county. We've got.
Yeah. Let's get to that. But yeah, Doomsday Prepper Ranch. Oh boy. Yeah, let's get into this story here. Jeff Smith writes this for GRID, Grand Rapids Institute for Information Democracy. It's GRIID.org. You really need to read this. This is dated October 14th. There have been plenty of examples of how COVID relief funds coming from the federal government have gone to bail out the fossil fuel industry and other corporations, while millions of people are unable to pay their rent or provide food to their children. In Kent County, there was also a significant outcry from the community when the county commission gave the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce the power to determine which businesses gets CARES Act funding instead of allowing real community input on how those relief funds could best be used. So, yeah, if you were on the enemies list of the Chamber of Commerce, you're just out of luck.
Yeah, and anybody with a soul is on the enemies list of the Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Kent County COVID Relief Subcommittee has decided to redirect CARES Act funding to the Grand Rapids Police Department in a variety of ways.
Thanks, Phil Skaggs.
At their October 8th meeting, the COVID Relief Subcommittee agreed to provide funds for public safety expenses incurred in May and June of this year. What this means is that Kent County is providing funds to the GRPD and other area police departments to cover costs due to the uprising on May 30th and the immediate aftermath of massive police presence in downtown Grand Rapids.
Which had nothing to do with COVID. Nothing at all.
Nope. In addition, the Kent County COVID Relief Subcommittee has allocated $500,000 to the city of Grand Rapids to cover costs to pay for gun detection technology, which will likely result in the GRPD having a contract with ShotSpotter. Now, if that name sounds familiar, I don't remember if we talked about it at the time back in 2015. This isn't the first time that the city of Grand Rapids has tried to enter a contract with ShotSpotter. They tried in 2015. They were going to do a $1.2 million 4-year contract with the company until Wood Television, their Target 8 investigative division, started running stories about how this technology doesn't really work all that well. So I think that kind of pushed it off of the agenda for a while. Now they're talking about it again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My fear is that ultimately they're prepping and funding so that if there's another lockdown, which looking at the numbers, they just continue to increase. We've got higher numbers in Grand Rapids right now than we've had since they started keeping track.
Yeah.
So my concern is that these funds are going to be allocated to heavily over-policing us during a COVID lockdown sometime in the next few weeks, probably around the same time of the election, which, as we can see, everything does seem to be coming together to work out exactly like that.
Mm-hmm. The members of the COVID Relief Subcommittee, which is made up of Republicans and Democrats from the Kent County Commission, voted unanimously to approve these allocations. And guess who's been pushing this? This one kind of surprised me. Commissioner Robert Womack, Democrat. For those of you outside of the area of Grand Rapids is listening to us in New Mexico and Missouri, let me fill you in. Robert Womack used to be, and I guess he still is, a radio personality in this town. As a matter of fact, he has gotten together with somebody that I used to work with over at the old station that we were on before they fired us and got rid of us. So, yeah, he's now a county commissioner. He's been active in government for a number of years. And now, for some very bizarre reason, he wants to push this shot spotting technology. Did I mention he's African American?
And he's a commissioner in the 49507 area code, which is the most violent area code in Grand Rapids.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's number one, always jumping on the side of law enforcement. So this should not surprise us. He did the All Kids Matter March downtown. Do you remember that?
Oh, God.
Yeah, he makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, here are the members of that COVID Relief Subcommittee. The chair is Mandy Bolter. The vice chair is Stan Steck. The commissioners on the committee are Emily Breve, Diane Jones, Stan Ponstein. Hi, Stan. Yeah, I've met him before. Actually, it was a fundraiser for
he's from Wyoming.
Former guest on this show. Oh, gosh, I can't think of her name. She's a Wyoming City Commissioner.
Marissa
Postler. Marissa was on this show. The first atheist elected to the Wyoming City Commission.
Atheist libertarian.
Yeah. Phil Skaggs, Jim Talon, and Robert Womack. Yeah. So
one of the big issues with the ShotSpotter is that they pinpoint fireworks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're a legal fireworks city. Like, all day long, fireworks are going off in the holidays. How are they...
Oh, of course. Oh, good Lord. So the Kent County Commission will be further discussing all this at their next meeting Thursday, October 22nd. The Grand Rapids City Commission discussed this on Tuesday, October 13th, particularly during the Committee of the Whole meeting in the morning, and it just goes on from there. Yeah, this technology is not very accurate. Some cities have a little bit better success with it than others. Saginaw was one of the cities that Wood TV reported on back in 2015.
But one of the reasons it may be coming here is because one of the original founders and investors is from Middleville. Mr. Thomas Gruss, apparently.
Yes. So, yeah, this is just lovely stuff. As you said, what's his connection to the
Womack
DeVos and to the DeVos family, for that matter?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, I want to get to this story. This is the story that really got me going this weekend. I could not believe it when I first heard about it. This is from KUSA Television in Denver, Colorado. They were not just reporting the story, they ended up becoming part of the story. For those of you that have not heard about this, this is out of Denver. An unlicensed private security guard is being held as a suspect in a deadly shooting near the Denver Art Museum, according to the Denver Police Department. 30-year-old Matthew Doloff is being held at the Denver Downtown Detention Center on suspicion of first-degree murder. He has not been formally charged yet. Don't they have to charge him within a certain amount of time or cut him loose?
I believe so, yeah.
The Denver Office of the Medical Examiner Monday identified the victim as 49-year-old Lee Keltner, who apparently owned a shop that made cowboy hats. Yeah.
They still have those?
I guess so. Doloff was contracted through Pinkerton by KUSA Television. It has been the practice of KUSA for a number of months to contract private security to accompany staff at protests.
Which has been happening in Grand Rapids as well.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I was the one that called it years ago and said, maybe it's a good idea with some of these crackpots. Maybe the media better start armed and get it cocked and locked and ready to rock Doc, in the words of notorious draft dodger Ted Nugent. No, I called this years ago. Go back into our archives. Because of these crackpots. 9 News Management, which is KUSA TV, released the following statement about the incident. I'm just going to paraphrase here. They're cooperating with law enforcement. They're deeply saddened by the loss of life. Apparently, there's a law in the city of Denver, and I believe Glendale and Colorado Springs has the same law on their books. If you're going to work as a security guard in those 3 cities, you have to have a city license from them.
So
in Denver, I believe you have to have 16 hours of training and be able to prove it.
And in Michigan, they can hire you for a federal protective security officer with nothing at all right off the street.
Oh, lovely. The TV station released another statement on Tuesday. Says here, quote, as stated yesterday, 9 News does not contract directly with individual security personnel. 9 News contracted with Pinkerton and had directed that security guards accompanying our personnel not be armed. None of 9 News' crew accompanied by Mr. Doloff on Saturday were aware that he was armed. End of quote. So now they're saying, we didn't know he was armed. Didn't know that at all.
Yeah, okay.
Denver police sent a tweet that Doloff was, quote, acting in a professional capacity as an armed security guard. End of quote. They originally took 2 people into custody, the other one being a news producer who works for their investigative unit. The producer was released from custody. He's not a suspect. For those of you that haven't seen the video, and you really need to, apparently there was a guy that was wearing a shirt that said Black Guns Matter. He's an African-American young kid, probably in his 20s, and he was confronting all these right-wingers and arguing with them verbally and getting in their face, and they started touching him, and he pushed back and said, don't touch me, and used one of my favorite phrases is being used right now. He kept telling him, f*** around and find out. So one of the guys that he was arguing with was this Keltner. Keltner saw that this was being recorded, confronted the news crew, and said, shut the camera off. Well, guess what? They're on public property. They're doing their job. They do not have an obligation to shut the camera off, period. End of story. I'm sorry. Journalist who's worked at Wood Television for 2.5 years. If I have a camera rolling and I'm part of a news crew, I do not have to shut it off unless you very specifically tell me to shut it off and I am on your personal property. If I'm in public, I can do whatever I want to. Sorry. Don't like it? That's tough. That's how the First Amendment works. So Keltner started confronting this producer. So the security guard said, hey, man, don't touch me. Don't touch me. And Keltner kept touching him. Finally, Keltner slapped the security guard across the face, then reached for what was apparently a can of bear mace. This was a pretty big can.
Wow. Yeah, I saw a still picture of the can. It was like hairspray. It was huge.
Mm-hmm. As soon as he started spraying, and by the way, there's a video recording of this. You can hear where he starts spraying, and instantly you hear one big bang where the security guard pulled his gun, shot the guy once, and dropped him. And within 5 seconds, Denver police surrounded the guy.
And then they actually arrested the news producer, too. Like, they didn't know he was not... I keep seeing this. They keep arresting the media and acting like they didn't know they were media.
And by the way, there's video of this where the producer tells the police, hey, I've got a press badge in my left pocket.
They're clearly marked every time. Every time they're very careful about marking themselves. It's ridiculous that they act like they didn't know they were media.
And not only that, if this is somebody that's on air a lot, I'm sorry. People do watch TV. The cops know who they're dealing with. Hello. So we'll keep following this story. There's a couple of things here, though. One, Pinkerton. Really? With the reputation that Pinkerton has had over, what? How long have they been around? Since the 1850s?
Yep. And they're still there. They're just completely privatized, and they're, just...
By the way, if you want a good dose of what Pinkerton's all about, you really need to go and look at the Men That Made America series on the History Channel, because they talk about John Rockefeller.
They were the original slave rounder-uppers, though, weren't they? Pinkertons?
I believe they might have been. I'd have to take a look. But Pinkerton Security was the ones that shot striking workers at the steel factories.
Yep.
And it caused so much drama that it was awful. It was horrible for that time. So, one, Pinkerton, really? Two, I don't know how I feel about the cities having to license people as security guards.
That's ridiculous. I told you already about, I think we talked about it on air, if I'm not mistaken, about I was on Facebook and somebody had posted to hire a security guard. To look over the city office, the city, like the city of Kentwood's office, over the people there, because they needed somebody to make sure everybody was wearing their mask. And I'm like, wait, don't we actually have police for that? We can't use the police to police anymore?
I'll just be simplistic here, just because I need to be simplistic. My thoughts are, if a city is forcing security guards to license when it's not required in other cities, it's a money grab. It's the same thing that these cities do to exotic dancers and anybody that works in the strip club industry.
A license is the real definition of a license is just the city selling you your rights back.
Yeah, pretty
for
much.
Anything.
Can we use that quote? Can I steal that?
I have borrowed it from somewhere. I heard it many years ago, but I've heard it a lot, so I think it's
true though.
There.
It is. It's absolutely true. We'll keep an eye on this story. So, I like I said, I've got just conflicting. I'm really conflicted on this story. And by the way, one of the things, and Robert Mackey over at The Intercept points this out in his story that's dated October 12th, is that shortly after this shooting happened and it started getting publicized, here come the right-wing crackpots. Here comes QAnon. Oh, we don't call them QAnon anymore because that outs them. There's the Q. Come out and spread all sorts of lies that this guy wasn't a security guard. He's Antifa. He's this, he's that, he's the other. No, he isn't. It's unbelievable, folks. And and here's the thing, where this came from was the Denver Post originally, in their reporting, said that this was a counter-protester. Then they corrected the story and said, no, he was a security guard for KUSA.
That's what I was going to say. It's not even the right-wingers. They're not smart enough to spew the right propaganda. Not as quickly and on as large of a scale as it needs to happen. The reason that these stories and the rumors about Antifa keep working out is because Blackwater itself is pushing the Civil War. It's literally the privatized oligarchy, military people that run everything.
Yeah, Robert Mackey summarizes this pretty good in the first paragraph of his story. He writes this. Here's what happened in Denver on Saturday. Lee Keltner, a right-wing demonstrator, was shot and killed after he assaulted Matthew Doloff, a reporter's bodyguard, who retaliated for a blow to the head and a squirt of pepper spray by firing a single gunshot from point-blank range. Those details and more evidence about the deadly encounter gradually emerged in the hours and days after the shooting, but initial reports in reaction to the killing were shrouded in misinformation, much of it introduced by political partisans who jumped to conclusions about the gunman's motives before all the facts were known.
And that's why the facts were handed out slowly in the fashion that they were, so that people would be most inclined to jump to the wrong conclusion. This is how they incite us. You know, it happens every time, how they dribble out this info. They don't tell you what color he is. They tell you this or that. And you can read the headline and you know, right? But they'll leave out certain details, especially crucial ones, to make people argue about it all later. It's nuts.
I'm going to skip around a little bit here. It says that the moments before the shooting were also recorded on video by the journalist the guard was protecting, but that footage was not released until more than 72 hours had passed. I'm sure that's probably because the station's attorneys had to clear it and make sure it was okay to air. But far-right Twitter personalities who thrive by providing their followers with fresh reasons to be outraged around the clock do not wait all day to leap to conclusions about unfolding events. Within minutes of the shocking act of violence, which took place after a sparsely attended rally described as a patriot muster against BLM, Antifa, and related Marxist associations by the organizer, a former military contractor who survived the Benghazi attack.
Is that Blackwater? Did someone just say Blackwater? That's who organized this entire protest.
Influential conservatives with hundreds of thousands of followers began to speculate that the gunman must have been an anti-fascist activist.
Boom. I'm telling you, this is Blackwater messaging right here. They want civil war more than I've ever seen it.
Mm-hmm. Just over an hour later, those same trolls flooded social networks with misinformation, amplifying a mistaken report from the Denver Post that the gunman was a left-wing demonstrator. That report, which was corrected later in the day, was apparently based on the account of one of the witnesses, Helen Richardson, the newspaper photographer who watched the shooting unfold through her viewfinder and had no way of knowing, based on what she saw, that Doloff, who was not wearing a uniform or any form of visible identification, was in the middle of this charged situation for a very unusual reason, as an armed bodyguard for the man standing behind him, a journalist for a local news station who was also not wearing anything that made his role clear. Like I said, he said in the video, my press badge is in my left pocket.
You did. Yeah, and I guess generally they were always clearly marked, but maybe now it's dangerous.
Because people target the media. Because guess what? You got Trump saying the media is your enemy. The media is your enemy.
That's so true. And now that they have security, they feel a little bit safer about not marking themselves, but then this happens.
Mm-hmm. Before the Post corrected this report, popular far-right Twitter commentators with a combined audience in the millions shared it with their readers as if it was definitive proof that the killing of Keltner was both politically motivated and the work of an anti-fascist activist. And then it just goes on. And they won't pull it back. They keep spreading this, even though it's there.
That's how it is with everything. It doesn't need to be true. If somebody says it 3 times, it's real, and they're going to pretend it is.
Yeah. Another perfect example of it is the plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer. You've got some of these right-wing trolls on Facebook and Twitter saying, well, one of those people that was charged, he's a lefty.
No.
I said, prove it. Show me a link, prove it. Crickets. Oh, you can just read it yourself. No, you make the assertion, you need to provide the proof. That's how it works.
I literally, we know who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
They are not leftists. They have literally attacked the left ever since I've heard of their existence.
Oh, God. Yeah, and then they start talking about QAnon, and we might as well just get right into the next story here. This is the NBC News again. This is Brandy Zadrozny and Ben Collins writing on October 15th. YouTube said Thursday that it would no longer allow content that targets individuals and groups with conspiracy theories, specifically QAnon and its antecedent Pizzagate. The company announced on its blog, quote, "Today we are taking another step in our efforts to curb hate and harassment by removing more conspiracy theory content used to justify real-world violence," end of quote. The new rules and expansion of YouTube's existing hate and harassment policies will prohibit content that, quote, threatens or harasses someone by suggesting they are complicit in one of these harmful conspiracies, such as QAnon or Pizzagate, end of quote.
This is the scariest thing I've heard in a long time. I'm not going to lie. And I've heard a lot of scary stuff.
YouTube's move to rid the platform of QAnon content follows similar recent actions by other social media platforms. In July, Twitter removed QAnon accounts and restricted QAnon content. Last week, Facebook said it would remove groups, pages, and Instagram accounts that identified with QAnon. And of course, QAnon. Yeah. These are the folks that think that Tom Hanks is part of this big Hollywood conspiracy and that he's raping children. Come on. Get real.
Oh, the problem is that it's a slippery slope. The First Amendment is so important. And when you say that we can't attach these people to these harmful conspiracies, so we can't allow this information out here, now that just opens a door for none of us to be able to say anything about anybody. And
but also YouTube, Facebook, Instagram are all private companies.
Right.
They are not controlled by the government. They're not under regulation, which leads to maybe the solution is they need to be regulated like a public utility is regulated.
They should be public utilities.
Well, there you go. That would fix the First Amendment issue. But until that gets fixed,
but this
they
feels
can do
very,
what they want.
This feels so strategic to me because the whole QAnon thing was so far off the level of reality from the beginning that it just seems very orchestrated to lead us into this place where we're like, okay, we have to do this because of these crazy people. But then,
yeah. But I can see where you're going with this is, okay, who defines who's crazy?
Yeah, and what's a conspiracy?
What's exactly?
Because right now, everything is an actual conspiracy, and they're calling them theories, but these aren't theories. They're really conspiring against us.
Yeah. This is just... The world gets crazier and crazier the further along we barrel roll into 2020. It really does. Speaking of QAnon... This story was published at the National Memo, but it was originally published at alternet.org. This is dated Thursday, October 15th. United States Postal Service special agents reportedly discovered large amounts of undelivered mail after raiding the home of a mail carrier who aligns with QAnon. A total of 8 large garbage bags believed to be filled with undelivered mail were confiscated from the home of USPS mail carrier Sean J. Troche. That's according to KDKA Television, Pittsburgh.
Now, what did he do? He just confirmed all of their statements, that the mail-in ballots were going to be compromised, this and that, and blah, blah, blah.
Because they're doing it themselves.
I know, but that's what they don't care. They'll still be like, does it matter? We're still compromised.
Following the raid, the USPS Office of Inspector General confirmed agents have retrieved several classes of mail, some of which were first-class mail pieces. Yeah, this guy is going to go away for several years, if not a couple of decades.
If Trump doesn't pardon him.
Well, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, I've said it before on this show, they always get their man. Don't ever mess with postal inspectors. Ever. It never ends well.
I believe it.
Troche's neighbors revealed this was not the first time they had seen a large number of garbage bags in front of the home. Screenshots have also surfaced from a Facebook page belonging to someone who identifies as Sean J. Troche. Here's some of the things he's posted. I believe this is Facebook. He says, I agree 100% with this. End the damn lockdown. I mean, he's just posting quarantine, cuckoo, nutty, psycho shit. And it just goes on from there. What do you do with these people? Really, what do you do with them? You can't educate them. They don't want to learn. They don't want to hear any of this.
So they just armed them and sent him out to start civil war, I think.
Mm-hmm. By the way, no criminal charges have been filed against him yet. The case has been forwarded to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Oh, jeez. Which, if Bill Barr, he might just let him off. Who knows?
Such a, this world. What is it to be a criminal now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we might as well end with a little bit of good news here. This comes from Inside Radio, which is a publication They report on the television and radio industry. They do some podcasting reporting as well. This is dated October 14th. Racist remarks allegedly made by Richards Group founder Stan Richards have cost the company two of its biggest clients. First, Motel 6 and now the Home Depot have severed ties with the shop after Stan Richards reportedly said a proposed ad for the motel chain was too black and wouldn't resonate with Motel 6's significant white supremacist constituents. Woo!
Oh, my. First of all, has he been to the Motel 6 lately?
Yes, because all the white supremacists stay at Motel 6. This is what happens when you have 88-year-old men running companies. Wow.
Truth.
The motel's agency of record for 34 years was holding a remote internal meeting attended by about 40 people to review an idea for an ad campaign that celebrated black artists. That's according to a report from Ad Age, who cited someone who was on the call. Motel 6 did not confirm the actual remark made by the agency's 88-year-old founder, but said in a statement, quote, "We are outraged by the statements made about Motel 6 and our customers by a member of the Richards Group during one of its internal meetings. The comments were not only completely inaccurate, they are also in direct opposition of our values and beliefs as an organization. Upon learning of these comments, we terminated our relationship with the Richards Group effective immediately. We are a company who embraces diversity of all forms and have a zero-tolerance policy for hateful comments of any kind, whether that be within our organization, at third-party vendors, or at our properties. We will continue to work every day to ensure every one of our guests and employees is treated with the utmost respect." End of quote. After making the remarks during the October 8th call, several agency employees challenged Stan Richards, who abruptly left the call, saying he had another meeting to attend. Again, that's according to Ad Age.
I'm just saying, you got to be pretty racist to lose Home Depot.
Yeah, Home Depot had been with him for 25 years and have now dropped him after they heard about what happened with the Motel 6 pitch.
Yeah, you got to be pretty bad for Home Depot to call you racist. That's all I'm saying.
By the way, the Richards Group had won numerous awards for their Motel 6 radio ads, with Tom Bodette saying that we'll leave the lights on for you. Oh, God.
Turning the lights off there.
Now, they turned the lights off on the Richards Group, I'll tell you that. Yeah, don't bother staying at our place anymore. Oh, man. But it shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, we've seen that. Who was it? The sports owner. Was it basketball? The guy that was being racist, the old man that was being racist a couple of years ago? I can't think of his name. The Clippers, LA Clippers owner.
Yeah. All of them, all those really, I'm not even going to say the words I was going to use, but racist old white men.
Mm-hmm. What were the words you were going to use?
I'm not saying.
Why not? Is that because I would have to put bleeps in?
and because I just wasn't even comfortable with using the words myself. I try to I try to be respectful of humanity. You know, it's been hard this week. I'm not gonna lie.
I gave up on that many years ago. As the listeners, longtime listeners of this show will attest to.
I have my moments, but I try. I strive for improvement at least.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's just unbelievable. This year continues to just get stranger and stranger. I don't know. What do we do?
I don't know. I guess we gotta find a pantry.
Yeah, and some ammo and guns and.
Or pay a membership.
Well, yeah, pay the $1,000. Hey, go to our Patreon. Help us out here.
Yes, please.
That's it for this week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele for Jack Prince.
And for Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.